Roll out.
What's up, everybody? John Nguyen here from Reactor. I'm here with Alex Seaver, aka Mako. I would say Arcane extraordinaire, League of Legends extraordinaire. You're like the man behind everything, right?
Yeah, there's a wonderful team there. I'm a part of the music team, but I've been there a long time, and I love those people dearly, and I love the projects we work on.
Yeah, and I feel like because your background in music, it's all over the place. Like as a good thing.
It's random.
You get to just dabble in everything with EDM music, with scores, and just even classical music, right?
Yeah.
And
right.
so you like with that mindset, just being able to know everything. Does that help you with just navigating the world of entertainment?
Big time, I think, and especially my work at Riot, because there's a bit of everything going on over there. They have a amazing staff of full-time composers, a lot of whom are also classically trained. We do a lot of film scoring, orchestra stuff, and then we try and write bangers. We're trying to write songs at the same time, and I honestly find that like having such a scattered background allows me to kind of just drop in and be helpful wherever they need me.
And I know that it's probably a tough question for you, like to try to pinpoint like when in your life you're like, all right, I feel good, I feel comfortable, like give it to me, anything you got, and then I'll release, just bangers after bangers.
I mean, to be honest, like the last 2 or 3 years, I've really started to like, I'm not a self-confident person, so it's been a long life of just being terrified that I'm about to, get fired at any moment. But the last couple of years, I've really started to feel grounded, especially because of Arcane Season 2, just like good. I've gotten a little better at leading as well, just like feeling confident in my ideas, trusting that the ideas will arrive. But the same as it's always been, like making a great piece of music never gets easier, so that's always a challenge.
Oh yeah, especially when the fans are excited, especially what you set up in the first season.
Yeah.
Just the music, like me watching Arcane, I'm like, oh my god, like the first time I heard Goodbye and just like the slow pan out shots, I was like, this, I'm not going to skip to the next episode.
Nice.
I'm just going to keep watching this.
That's what a lot of people said too. It's funny, they're like, I hate that it auto skips, and I'm like, I know.
And so with that, because there's so many different musical styles in the show, because you have like the feeling of like, oh, this is like kind of like rock inspired, and then also just cinematic. And for you, like, what do you do to help prepare yourself for like each song?
Yeah, I mean, everyone is a mixed bag. Same thing with Season 2. Also, we love having like a pretty diverse genre spread, because if everything's the same, it'll just kind of like wear on you a bit. A lot of it comes from our showrunner, Christian, and our animation studio called Fortiche. They'll usually set us up with every song with a little brief of here's things we like, here's things we're picturing. Christian will just come up with like these left field ideas. Like in episode 2 in Season 1, he was like, I want a Motown song, like this old school thing that happens in the bar when they touch the machine. And then we found Curtis Harding, and then we found Jasmine Sullivan, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is a cool thing that we've never really done before, like this really cool classic style record. So a lot of that just comes from the top down, and then our job is just to figure out how to get it done. And every song is a different little puzzle that we try and figure out. And we work with amazing collaborators in the artists and producers that join us, so we find the help we need.
Yeah, I feel like you're the modern day Yoko Kanno. Because Yoko Kanno, like for Cowboy Bebop, the anime has different types of genres, mainly jazz.
Yeah.
But there's like certain parts where like we'll add some pop stuff, and so I feel like you're like in that just realm of like I can adapt and just really just almost do anything. Like
it keeps it fun, that's for sure.
Yeah. And for Season 2, more songs.
A lot more songs.
And because the first season, there were songs, but here I want to hear your thoughts on like how many songs, the differences between doing Season 1 and Season 2, and probably just more challenges because you're working on more songs.
Yeah, big time. I mean, Season 1, we were kind of like inventing our style with it. We were doing one song moment per episode, and me and Sebastian Najan and Alex Temple and all the artists we worked with, we were all just trying to like invent how this works, and animation takes a really long time to produce. And so unlike other kinds of things where an artist will write a song and a studio will buy it and just plop it onto picture, we were trying really hard to weave these songs so deeply into the fabric of the show. So I was like film scoring a lot of songs, which is a very challenging and not conventional way to go about the process, is like literally write a pop song as if it was a film score cue. And it was so hard to figure out, but by the end of the process, we really kind of got it down. And so season 2, Fortiche and Christian were like, twice as many songs, let's rip it. And so season 2 is us kind of like flexing a bit and really just being like, okay, cool, how far can we push this? Like, how amazing can we make the experience for audiences when a song begins and how it's woven into picture, and kind of like blurring the lines of what is score and what is songs. And then we did the same thing we did in season 1, which is after we finish the show, then we'll go back and reverse engineer a lot of the songs and make them sort of like listenable on Spotify and not as crazy, because some of the ways we use the songs in the show are very weird and morphed and do all kinds of things. And then we like cool it off for the record so that people aren't confused when they listen on Spotify. But yeah, it was a lot of like taking what we learned and then trying to go even further.
Yeah, so that's cool that, there's a different version that what I'm listening to on Spotify compared to like what we're seeing on the show. And yeah, I feel like that's a lot of, there are some movies that do that. Like here's the stuff where you want to have the self-contained version just for the listeners.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of tough because we didn't have a ton of other things to compare it to, what we were trying, which was super exciting for us. So we're like, we don't have anything to compare this to, but also every time we got stuck, we're like, shit, I don't know how to get out of this. Like this is hard to figure out.
Yeah. No, I feel like, because like a lot of directors, like when they do the what is that, the term with the drop?
Yeah, the little 2-pop.
The pin drop.
Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, needle drop.
Needle
when a song
drop.
Starts. Yeah.
Needle drop. And so it's like, oh, we'll just add this song here and then this song here. But then for you, it's like from scratch.
Yeah.
But I feel like that just creates a better product. Like it just feels like you're really invested, emotional, and like. Because I was able to watch the first 3 episodes for season 2, and just hearing the songs, I'm like, oh man, this is like just heavy.
I think what it does is it allows us to not create this experience where a song starts and everybody rolls their eyes because they go, here's the song. Like, when we weave it in like that, it supports the storytelling so much, this is my opinion at least, that you kind of, sometimes you forget that a song is playing because it's just doing what a score would do. And that's why, especially at the start of season 2, we were like, wow, they want twice as many songs. Is that too many songs? Now that we sort of wandered through the process, like, we really did it in a way where it was like everything supports the storytelling still. Like, it's not about calling attention to itself the way maybe a traditional needle drop might. There are some moments where we definitely do that, like all sound stops and this is just like, boom, listen to this song, which we did in season 1. But there's 2 song moments per episode now, so we really needed to find ways to not make it so that we're distracting people. We just want to like enhance everything.
Oh yeah, and I want to ask you, the one of my favorite songs in the first season is Playground.
Oh, nice.
And one of my favorite experiences for Arcane is the Arcane experience. I don't know if you had a chance.
I went like 3 or 4 times. I loved it.
And so like at the end, they turned into a club, and then they're playing music from the show. I'm like, oh, this is so cool.
I was in heaven.
Yeah, and so. With that, like, what does that feel like when you're hearing your music live? Like,
it's the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
It's literally, you're like, all right, I just want to do this over and over and over again. That's why I tell Christian and other people, like, I would do 10 seasons of this, like, easy. It's my favorite.
Do you think there will be another Arcane experience?
I hope so. I mean, I'm not on the inside of these things, but, like, the team's working really hard to develop this. Everyone's so inspired and motivated based on Arcane. I mean, a lot of it is, like, this is great because the people that made it care so deeply about the characters, the champions, and Runeterra, the place that it's all drawn from. So all I'm hearing from them is what you're hearing, which is that they're really inspired to run off and tell more stories. I know they are working on more stories. I just haven't really had a chance to see. The music comes in a little bit later, so I have no idea what's happening yet. But I just know that like people are really excited and they're working hard on new things.
Oh yeah, and by the time this interview is out, I believe the Heavy as a Crown Arcane version is going to be out. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's fun. This is like season premiere of season 1. I met Mike Shinoda. He came to the premiere, and he was just like so lovely. He was really nice. He was a fan of the show. He really liked it, and he loves Fortiche, the animation studio. And so pretty early on into season 2, we sent him an email like, hey man, do you want to do something for season 2? He was super game. I mean, we just started working on literally like the first song in season 2 together. And he sent me this idea that was Heavy as the Crown, and it was really dope. And that was 3 years ago. And so we've been working on it for 3 years. Fast forward to now, Linkin Park's back, like Did not know that back then.
But did you have an inkling?
No, I don't know if he knew it back then.
Uh-huh.
I don't want to speak for him. I have no idea when the idea came together, but he hit us up, like me, Christian, and our head of music. We all went over to his house, and he was like, it was a secret. He's like, I can't tell you why, just come to my house. And he played us a couple of Linkin Park songs and said the band's coming back, and Heavy as the Crown is an amazing song for what he was envisioning for Linkin Park. And then at that same time, just this amazing mind meld went on of what if that's the world's anthem for 2024? What does that mean for the Arcane version that me and Mike had been working on? And so it just got everyone really excited, and then we just like developed these two versions. So as you and I were talking a couple days before season 2 premieres, nobody knows that there's a whole other version coming, but there's this original thing that me and Mike did, and then we didn't have Emily back then, the singer. Like, now we have her vocals, and it sounds badass. Like, it was a fun one to see come together, because it was like a 3-year process.
So that means you get to hear her vocals like isolated and just like...
I got a bunch of stems of her screaming. She's so good.
Yeah.
She sounds so good.
Especially in Heavy as a Crown, just that part where she just keeps going for...
You saw it. I mean,
Yeah.
You saw the end of episode 1. Like, it's like the whole theater screamed, shouted when it happened. It was really cool.
And so, okay, season 2, well, Act 1, there's a lot of stuff that has happened, especially with Caitlyn, and then there's a scene where people are mourning. You had that song. What was the song for
called
that?
I Can't Hear It Now.
I Can't Hear It Now.
With
And-
featured by Freya Ridings is the artist.
Yeah, so that one, watching that in the theater,
Yeah.
I was like, this is good. This is like, yeah, we're back.
Oh, that's
Like,
awesome. Okay, cool.
yeah.
It's
like-
so weird because I've been living with these songs and the show
Yeah.
for so many years. I have no perspective anymore. So, like, that's why it's really exciting for all of us, because we're like, let's see what people think. Like,
Yeah.
we think we did a good job, and we're not, and we tried really hard. So it's like, that's so great to hear, because I was a little nervous that we're starting with a song so early into episode 1 of season 2. But it's a really beautiful one, and Freya Ridings is so good.
Yeah, that's how you got to do it. Like just set the tone.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
the idea.
And with that, after that, there's just more songs, like just the preparation. There's one with Caitlyn preparing.
Yeah. So that's Heavy as the Crown.
Very subtle too, right?
Yeah, it's kind of a interesting one because it's broken up. It's like the first verse of it you hear, and then it disappears for a while and becomes film score music.
Yeah.
While Caitlyn's I mean, she busts in on the council. They're not talking with her at first, and then the song comes back full Emily screaming when all of a sudden you see Vi and the rest of the characters of the new sort of enforcer gang coming through.
Yeah. So now I can't wait to see
Yeah.
that version, because now the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm starting to remember how it's set up. Because it's not, like you said, like you gotta release 2 versions, one for how it's done in the show,
Yeah.
and then one the Spotify version where
Yeah.
you listen to it as a song.
Yeah, I made it on Spotify. I made it a much shorter journey. In the show, it's like probably a 4-minute sequence or something. I like took both ends and glued them together, and that's the first track on the soundtrack.
Yeah. So I think we're here. We're here at your studio. I want to see the magic happening. And so, what is it? The first thing you want to showcase to us?
I mean, I just pulled up the very first song. This
Yeah.
is the one with Freya Ridings.
Yeah.
This is called I Can't Hear It Now. At this point, like, it's the final, session. So the animation up here looks really beautiful. I'll pull this down for y'all. It's this amazing watercolor kind of thing that Fortiche created. And when I first started, it didn't look like this. It was sort of more like this layout hand-drawn thing. So I didn't know it would look quite like this until later on.
There's an ocean so dark down below the
So now the OST version is continuing to play. In show, it stops right there.
It stops right there.
Yeah. So I added a whole bunch of stuff. This is from later on. But yeah, so like this is, what a sequence looks like over here.
It's a lot of
A lot
oh
of
my God.
stuff. Yeah.
Look at that. This is different from what I would do on video editing on Premiere, where I would just have, like, let's say 2 tracks for just the audio, and then 2 for video. But this is
what happens before it becomes 2 tracks of audio for you. Is that it's all this stuff, and like we get to record these wonderful like live orchestras and stuff in Berlin.
Yeah.
This one was going to be a big old string one from the beginning. I think like the original demo that I wrote was just me on the piano kind of a thing. I can't even remember like where it is.
Yeah, how do you keep track of?
Oh yeah, these things get really, really messy after a while. But yeah, and then like working Freya Ridings is one of my favorite vocalists of all time, and this was a really, really this was a really important one to get right because it's so early in the show, and so I just felt like if the singer wasn't able to communicate something like really powerful without being cheesy, that was a big thing, is like if you're starting with a piano ballad and it's corny, that's just like such a rotten way, in my opinion, to start the season.
So what was it?
Yeah, go ahead.
What is an example of like it sounding cheesy?
Just trying too hard to be too emotional. Like the thing I love about Freya's voice is that it communicates like deepness and beauty and emotion without like, for lack of a better word, like being too musical theater about it and being too overly dramatic. Like melodramatic is probably a better word to describe it. Whereas she just sings boldly and beautifully, and it kind of wafts over you. And I don't know, I'm not the best at describing it, but I felt it when I heard it, and then I've been a fan of hers for a really long time too, so I just kind of like told my team like, what about Freya? And they're like, oh, let's listen. And then they heard it and they're like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, let's go. And she's incredible. She's an amazing writer as well. So we're like super honored to have her kick off the soundtrack for the show.
Oh yeah. So yeah, that feeling of I'm pretty sure for you, every time you're writing a piece of music, and then the singer just making that come to life. Yeah.
It can really change things. I mean, the big one in season 1 was Sting. Like, having his voice suddenly get recorded and pop on there, like, it gives the scene a lot of weight that you don't normally predict. And when it's a happy accident, you're like, yeah, I knew it the whole time. But half the time, you're like, thank God. Like, that's so great. And Freya's one of those for us.
I know, because I was like, man, they got Sting in this. I'm like, oh, it's touching too.
Yeah.
But seeing the scene again, it gives me goosebumps, because for me, like, I love like animated movies. A best example for me when watching this reminds me of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse with Gwen Stacy, that whole artistic look, and I was like, oh man, so now Arcane's doing that.
I think like the folks at Fortiche, and I can't speak for them to know when and who decides this and how, but them mixing mediums is kind of like not that surprising for Fortiche, because they are very artistic. And that's what we did with a lot of song moments this season, where they kind of pop out for a second and do a different for me, I call this like watercolor influenced. I don't know if that's what it actually is or not, but it just looks different than the rest of the episode. And then it's, this black and white like chalk and charcoal drawings and stuff. It's so beautiful, but it only occurs for the length of the song, and then as the song fades away, we get back into, the regular palette of the show. And I just love that. So we did that a lot for this season for the song moments as well, to kind of like, I don't know, like lift the visual experience as much as the song experience, and that's all them. I mean, they just give me the footage, and I go, damn, I like this.
Yeah, no, they knocked it out of the park, because now I'm thinking about it, because the music feels very raw, and so the art feels raw too, with like just the essentials of like, it feels like someone just feeling very emotional. This is what I'm just going to draw out, like what you're talking about with the charcoal and chalk and watercolors. It just feels very base, So.
Yeah, and this was my first time writing a Caitlyn song. She has an amazing arc this season. She has one of my favorite probably character arcs in the season, and I didn't connect with her quite as much in season 1. I was so like just enraptured by Vi and Jinx and that story and Piltover and Zahn. And so this was right off the bat. Christian told me her full arc. This song only expresses the beginning of that arc. And so like I can't wait for people to see like where it goes, and the songs follow with her. Like the songs follow her arc as well, and that was a really fun experience. Was like getting to write for on behalf of a new character that I didn't really have as much connection with in season 1.
Oh yeah, and another thing with this, like, so Freya's going to be performing again, right? In the other, like, let's say Act 2 or 3, or one of those.
Oh, in Act 2 or 3? No, it's just Freya's only on this one song.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
The artist that we use to occupy the person changes from song to song. But it's sort of how, like, in season 1, like, Ramsey, that song Goodbye, she kind of represents Powder, and then later on we have songs that kind of represent Jinx a little bit. So the artist doesn't need to be the same way that the voice actor doesn't need to be. Yeah. In this case, the Caitlyn voice actor is the same the whole time, Katie. But we just different artists for the moment, really.
Yeah, that's fine. That's like, I feel like that's the Riot Games way, like League of Legends, especially with the music, where they have different artists performing for different or the same characters. Totally. Yeah.
This is the end of episode 1. Another Caitlyn song. This is now about her rather than from her voice. But yeah, this is Mike Shinoda
doubt the merit of your
and
birthright,
Emily.
Caitlyn. There's wisdom in that. But remember, you're a Kiraman.
So yeah, after watching it again and then remembering the song, very different in terms of they're both heavy, like just a lot of just action elements.
Yeah.
But this one very like you're just taking some things and then just kind of toning it down and then extending it. So I feel like, did Emily redo some of the stuff to fit for this?
Yeah, it's funny. When we were working on it initially, I don't know if she was in the picture yet, so like we were using Mike's vocals for a while, we're using some of my vocals, we had auditioned some other singers to do it as well, and then when Mike hit us back up and was like, we want to do this as a Linkin Park song, and by the way, here's this amazing new singer we have. At that point, we were like, great, can she send us the file? So she recorded some new stuff. I mean, she sings the first chorus very soft, which I don't think exists in their version of the song. And then I got to have her scream a bunch and send over those files. And that's what makes the scene to me, is like her blasting that. And when we were at the premiere, the whole theater was just rocking when that happened. And we didn't have that till like I think we had to reopen the mixing process for the show just to deliver that thing, because Christian was like, that needs to be in the show. And I'm so glad we did, because it's badass.
And so when was that in terms of how many days before release?
I mean, we had to turn in the show, I don't know how long ago, maybe like 2 months ago, maybe a little longer. My calendar in my head is terrible, but like this was the last day possible. It was the very end. Everything was done, and also we were busy with the finale. Like episode 1 was mixed forever ago, so we had to reopen that whole thing just to slip this bit of vocal in there. But you know, that's the ethic of the show, is like, if you can make it better, like at no expense, make it better.
Yeah, so that means currently you're still working on like last minute stuff for Act 2 and 3.
Yeah, after everybody sees it, we'll get their copies back and we'll do another pass and then give it to everybody again.
Yeah, and this it's just now watching that scene, just Caitlyn, just feeling just the loss of her mom, and really like, you know what, I'm taking no crap from anyone. Yeah. And so the song "Heavy as a Crown," it's just I feel like it's perfect. And yeah, that's the episode 1 is the 2 bookends, or the beginning is the Freya riding song, which is like, holy cow, my whole my support system is gone. I don't know if I am like strong enough. I don't know if I have what it takes to actually like do it, because she was just a young detective in season 1. Like, she's not ready to like be hanging around the council as people are murdered in this like, this is too big. And throughout the course of episode 1, I mean, it even
the end of episode 1, we're off to the races. Like, she's full of piss and vinegar, and she really, like, steps into this role here. And so, like, the distance between those two songs is, like, the emotional arc of her right after the attack up to the end of episode 1.
Oh, yeah.
Things happen in episode 1 that get her there, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, people will see, like, it's warranted by the time we get there.
Yeah, but I do feel the same as you in terms of Caitlyn, just more of her journey in this one, and I can't wait to see what is in store for her in Act 2 and 3, and hopefully, I still want to see Vi and Jinx relationship. So.
You're going to get all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this was Freya's song, and this is what it looked like when I wrote it.
There is an ocean so dark.
That's just me singing.
Below the waves, where you are, these dreams turn to float away.
At this point, I don't even know that it's going to be stylized, because this is what all the layouts look like.
Yeah.
So I don't know it's a charcoal thing until much later.
Like the way your voice always sounds when you sing to me, but I can't hear it now. Just tell me how to keep breathing. I won't pretend it.
You get the idea?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, like, a song that's, like, the Freya one isn't too crazy different, because it was a piano and strings, and, like, the early version was a piano with some synth strings. So, like, the evolution isn't as big a leap as certain other songs, where it's, like, a massive leap. And, like, in episode 2, like, Sucker is one of my favorite songs, and that one is, like, started with little rinky-dink sounds, and then turns into this thing. That's pretty sick.
Oh, yeah. It's but it's cool that you're able to just do, like, a mock-up, like a demo, and with your voice, too, your singing voice. So,
I sing a lot of the early demos just because I write them here at the piano. This is part of the Arcane process, is if you go too far ahead too fast, you shoot yourself in the foot. So if I had made something too developed and hi-fi too early, you're kind of at the mercy of, like, Picture not hoping Picture never changes again, because when you've figured out all the moves and really brought them to life, it's kind of like how I would imagine computer graphics work. It's like, if you render and make it too perfect and then you have to change some things, you waste so much time and energy, and it makes it harder to pivot. So you just kind of create these little, like, work in progress things where it's like, all right, and we have a shorthand with our director too, so it's like Christian is like, I get where this is going, I like this, or no, actually I'm picturing something different. Heavy as the Crown was an interesting example, because I kept trying to make it sound cool, because it was like, I got Mike Shinoda here, and this chorus is badass, and I kept making it a really cool sounding thing, and he was like, this isn't a cool moment, this is fucking evil, this is scary, this is darkness, this is Caitlyn going down the wrong path. And so that's another example of, like, as we're developing it, I'll check in with him, and he'll be like, you're heading in the wrong direction, tilt it this way, and then keep going. And if you go too far too fast, then you won't have a chance to get those check-ins and learn that you were going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, so it's cool. Like, you try to keep it as loose as possible, and like this, it's like mock-up, not too much, but they can change it, but you kind of sense certain things.
Yeah.
And when you see the final version with the watercolor look, then you're like, oh yeah, I can see where they're headed with that.
Totally. Yeah, and on my end, I just want to make sure that the early demo makes them feel the thing that I'm expecting to feel at the end. Like, if the strings get more elegant sounding and stuff, that doesn't really distract you, but if you're not feeling what I want from demo 1, then I haven't done a good job yet, and I gotta keep working. And so that's, like, the key, is just, like, making something that makes everybody feel good, timing it with Picture, learning how the song interacts with Picture, and then you go from there. At this point, we'll probably look for an artist, honestly, because I was expecting to change the key of this for a singer. We knew we wanted a female singer for Caitlyn. Freya just straight up did it in the key that I wrote it in, which is crazy. I mean, it's so dope. But a lot of times I'm like, I don't want to record live instruments yet if I don't know what key the song's going to be in. You know, you want to wait till you've slotted it, and then you write out the parts.
And then you bring in the people.
100%.
Yeah, they're
100%.
Like, no! I was like, I worked so hard on this.
Oh, yeah.
That is it with Alex. It's like genius. I'm gonna call you a genius. I know people hate when the word. It's like, but yeah, no. I think your music is awesome.
Thanks.
In League of Legends and in Arcane, and as long as it makes people moved,
Yeah,
emotional.
that's all I care about.
Yeah, that's it. And Act 2 and 3 is coming out later,
Yeah.
so can't wait for that. But yeah,
Thanks for
pleasure.
having me.
Yeah, thanks for showing us around the studio.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks,
All right.
guys.